All right, I'm going to do a little video here on the economy and who it's working for, who it's not working for. Touch a little bit on the UAW strike that's going on, and talk about some of the uh, comments I've seen on that. So, one of the things I want to go over is how much CEO pay has just skyrocketed. Top level managers, not even the CEOs, managers, are making 475 times more than the average employee of their company. Do you think any single one of them is doing 475 times as much work as someone who is working on the line, or someone who's actually making the product, someone who's interacting with the customers? Do you think the managers are doing 475 times more for the company than that frontline worker who is the face of the company, who's driving the profits, who's making the customer happy? I don't think so. Now, I know a lot of managers go above and beyond. I'm not saying they don't deserve to have a decent salary for what they do. Um, as a matter of fact, I do not want to be a manager because very often managers' jobs suck. They are responsible for everything. You know, uh, they've got a lot of the responsibility. But 475 times more? That's excessive. That's grossly excessive. So CEO pay has skyrocketed 1,322% since 1978. In 2020, a lot of CEOs were paid 351 times. That's the average. The 475 time are the top level CEOs. But we're getting to a point in the economy where for the income inequality and the wealth inequality is this huge gap, right? And that is going to lead to a crash or some other kind of catastrophic economic event where, you know, everything just gets pretty bad before it gets better. That's what happened in the 30s, led to the rise of the unions and everything like that, and the economic inequality that led to the Great Depression. Uh, yep. So here's a good article from EPI.org. CEO pay in 2020. Exorbitant CEO pay is a major contributor to the rising inequality that we could safely do away with. CEOs, managers, all this stuff, making obscene amounts of money while the workers are living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to get by, and that in itself is hurting our economy. If the workers, the vast majority of people don't have money to spend, the economy tanks, because the economy is driven from the bottom up. You got the Will Rogers quote that, don't give handouts to the already rich, give money to the poor. Because, by the end of the day, the CEO or the rich will have the money, but at least it will have passed through the hands of the poor guy. A little bit of wisdom from way back. It's not like this isn't known. This is known. It is a economic reality. It is a fact. It is something that only the most insane and disingenuous people could ever argue against. The economy is bottom up driven. The consumers are what drive the economy. It doesn't really matter what product they're buying or what products are being made. If there's a demand for it, the consumers will buy and profits will be made, and the economy flows. So the people who make the products need to be paid enough to buy the products they're building or the products that they're selling. The GM, speaking of UAW strike, twist herself into a pretzel trying to defend her outlandish salary. She is making $30 million a year. $30 million a year for not doing much. If the company does good, she does better. So she is saying 92% of her pay is based on performance of the company. When the company does well, she does well. Not everybody. I mean, they get some profit sharing, but the workers get profit sharing. But it is not anywhere near $30 million for one person. So her salary's increased 34% over the last 4 years, while a worker's pay has only increased by 6. That is a very unequal sharing of the profits. Very unequal. And and people are wondering why workers are all getting pissed off. It's because the people who don't make the same kind of contributions to the company are getting more of the reward for their labor. So this is essentially other people profiting off of the labor of the worker. Workers are not getting the full benefit of their labor. So what Mary Barra is really hiding in her statement that she does better when the company does better is her salary is directly related to how low she can keep the workers' wages, even though the cost of labor is actually a ridiculously low number. Like when you're buying a car, the cost of labor of that car, the cost of labor contributes 5% of the cost of that car. 5%. The rest of it is materials, which are pretty significant, and other overhead. CEO pay, executive pay, and shareholder profits, which are also kind of ridiculous. I was about to say I don't know what the solution is, but I do. I do know what the solution is. We need to get back some kind of way to control the inherent greed of corporations and get away from this ridiculous idea that corporations need to put their shareholders first. So at the founding of our nation, corporations did exist. They had some restrictions, and you can look this. Hold on, I'm going to look this up. Okay, so corporations, right at the beginning of the United States. Okay, so at the beginning, corporations were mostly things like cities, schools, some charitable organizations, and one of the benefits of the corporation is, of course, to limit the fiscal risk to the people running the corporation, or the founders and stuff like that. So that's the primary benefit of a corporation is you keep your personal and business separate. So it wasn't until 10 or so years later that economic enterprises started becoming corporations. So banks, citizens organized corporations to build roads and canals and bridges and stuff like that. They were very, very limited in where they got capital, how long they lasted, and had very strict limits on what they could and could not do. So if you were incorporated to build a bridge, that's the only thing that corporation did. built the bridge and handled the money for the bridge building, all that stuff. That's it. Um, Basically, there was something about the corporation had to prove that every single year the corporation had to prove that its existence was of benefit to the United States, that there was a public benefit for having that corporation around. So basically, the corporations were public entities designed for a specific purpose, and that purpose was to have a public interest. The public benefited from the existence of the corporation, and they had to prove that every single year. So one of the reasons they were so limited in the beginning and were fairly limited for 100 years was uh, our founders really understood the risk of these moneyed interests taking over. So with this concentration of consolidated power in the hands of these corporations, and that's pretty much what's happening now. Is you see all these too big to fail companies, and the government feels pretty much powerless to stop them because they're large employers, they're part of the economy, they're building cars. But the truth is, we need to destroy these monopolies. These things that have grown too big to fail need to be destroyed. One of the best ways I can think of to accomplish this is employee-owned businesses, where the majority of stocks are owned by the employees. And this is, the employees get the profits, the employees have voting rights, decisions, and all this stuff. For example, I was just thinking of this the other night, or maybe last night I posted this. All right, let's see. Don't try and teach a starving person how to fish. Give them a fish. Teach them how to fish when they're not hungry anymore. Hey, that's really need to watch this because that's exactly what the CEOs think of you. Here we go. My idea for the big three: keep messing around, won't pay workers what they're worth. The UAW has this giant pool of talent and experience building cars. If they went out and bought up some of these closed and shuttered factories, retooled them, and started building cars, UAW cars, I mean, I would be one of the first in line to buy a UAW car. And it would be all employee owned. So we wouldn't have to worry about these giant CEO pays and working only for the benefit of the investors. That is absolutely ridiculous. So the investors, so this theory, economic theory, that corporations are only for the benefit of the investors, which means corporate hospitals don't care about healing you. They don't care about making you better. Their only existence is to make profits for their shareholders. Companies don't care about how good of a product they put out. Their only interest is in making profits for their shareholders. That idea, that theory, that legal premise needs to be destroyed. It is ruining everything. The CEO's main job to shortchange the workers, get the cheapest materials, and skimp on building the product. That's their job. How to skimp and shortchange enough to increase the profits for the shareholders. Now, I can't find it. I've kind of looked, but I saw one person, and this is probably echoing. This is a talking point of the con jobs, uh, saying that, well, the auto worker is going to be making more than police and firefighters and teachers. Yep, yep. And every single one of those jobs deserves to get more money now. We've been falling, people who do the actual work, and I may not be included in that because I'm in IT. Don't know how much. I mean, we sweat sometimes when we're doing network closet cleanups and stuff like that. But most of our work is in the brain. We do create a lot of stuff. So anyway, I digress. Um, People who are actually moving things forward, making things, creating things, being the face of the company, uh, you know, interacting with the customers, all this stuff. Those are the people driving the profits, not the CEOs and the management and stuff like that, whose only job is to look out for the shareholders. And like I said, that needs to change. Every worker needs more money, deserves more money, deserves to get a higher percentage of their labor, of the benefits of their labor, than what they're getting right now. Since the 1970s, 78. Because here it is. Since 1979, our wages have pretty much gone up 28%. Let me show you that. 1,322% for CEO pay. 28% for us workers. And that's one of the reasons I choose to stay at a small business, mid-sized business, that is not a corporation. It's founded by a family. The business is still in the family. It's a family business because they are good people and they pay their workers well for what we do. I feel that I am well compensated. I'm well taken care of. It is a good place to work. But you're getting out here with Starbucks, all these franchises uh, whose way to make money is to screw their workers over and shortchange their consumers. Now, if we take pride in our work because that the better we work, the more profits we make for the company, the more bonuses we get, blah blah blah. So we take pride. I take pride in the company I work for. And that's how it should be everywhere. And these people complaining that, oh, the auto worker is going to get more money than a policeman. Yeah. You've got to take pride in your work. You got to do your work well, and you've got to deserve that money. Policemen deserve more money than they get. Teachers deserve more money than they get. But that's driven by taxes. That's driven by taxes. And I bet you the guy who said that doesn't want to pay his taxes. He wants to cut his taxes. which is going to cut the pay for the firemen, police, EMTs, um, and everybody he's complaining about not making as much money as an auto worker. That's your taxes, and that's why you should be happy to pay taxes. A, for all those services that you get from them, and B, the reason you have to pay so much taxes is because the corporations don't. If we tax corporations again, give them some incentive to keep that profit margin a little bit low. I don't mind companies making profit, but billions in profit? That's profit, profit, profit. That's not they're not rolling it back into research and development. They're not doing anything like that. They're buying back stocks. They're compensating their executive management team. They're compensating their CEOs, and they're providing a windfall for their shareholders. They're not really doing anything good with that much profit. 10, 15% profit margin. That is phenomenal. But no, they're getting a lot more than that in profits. And they're doing it by shortchanging the worker, shortchanging the consumer, because they're too big to fail. Take them down. Workers of all kinds, auto workers, factory workers, firemen, police, teachers, um, burger flippers, those that you love to insult. Man, what I wouldn't give to have a burger flipper. Fast food workers. I would love to see fast food workers make a good living. Can you imagine if a burger flipper, someone working at fast food, made a decent living doing that? Then people who love doing that would stay in that job and get experience and get pride in what they do. And going through the drive-through wouldn't be such an annoying mess. You get what you pay for, right? And if you had workers who were paid well working at the fast food counter and the drive-through and taking pride in what they did because they got paid good for it, and they can live and they can keep that job and they can get experience and they can grow in that job, how much better of an experience would that be all around? So I'm going to be linking a lot of things in my blog post, which I will also include here. But here's a good distribution of America's income. A chart as 100 homes, right? So, as 100 homes, 18 houses have less than $25,000 in income. And how do you live on that? How do you live on $25,000 a year? I mean, I did it for a pretty long time. I mean, the struggle's real, especially in GOP controlled Mississippi. I mean, the GOP utopia is hell for workers and everybody else. If you're not already rich, there's very little chance you're ever going to get there. You're ever going to make a decent living. So 18 homes have less than 25,000. 20 homes are right at the poverty line. Medium income, 16 homes are about the median income. 10 homes have over 200,000 in income. Only 10 homes out of 100 have over 200,000. And then you have CEOs. So a small part of that is CEOs and stuff like that who are making $22 million a year or more. I mean, there's very little that someone can do to earn $10 million a year, right? So if people who are doing our daily necessity jobs are not getting enough to live on, then there's very little anyone can do to earn $5 million a year, right? You can't, there's no reasonable way someone can provide enough benefit to enough people to earn that. You get what I'm saying? They may make that, but there's no way they're going to earn that. But 38 out of 100 homes live on less than $50,000 a year. And I mean, even coming from Mississippi, 50,000 a year ain't a lot to live on, and you can't get you a lot of stuff. I'll provide this link in the description. 76% of wealth is concentrated in the top 10% of people. The middle 40% own 22% of the wealth. The bottom 50% own just 1%. Half of our families are have less than 1% of a share of the wealth of our nation, and that's insane. 13.4 million families in that group have a negative net worth. They owe more money than they have access to, and they probably always will. One of the things I want to go talk about is the accumulating debt. And this ties into crime and addiction and all this other stuff. If you can't earn that much money, right? If there's no way you can see ever getting a decent job that pays you a living wage because of where you live, your educational background, whatever the reasons, you're going to have a really difficult time, a desperation mental state. Where you're constantly desperate to find food, find shelter, find money to pay for those things. And desperation is going to lead people to do desperate things. Crime is one of them. So you're never going to reduce crime until you reduce the desperation caused by the hopelessness that stems from no company's going to pay you a decent living wage for whatever reason. And there's the people who, instead of going crime, they go addiction. Something to make them feel at least decent. Drugs, alcohol, and hobbies. So living in Mississippi, there are people that spend tons of money that they don't have on hobbies, fishing, cars, whatever else kind of distraction they can get themselves into. And their debt is a lot more than they're ever going to be able to deal with. I mean, I was working. I, I have a little different mental state than a lot of people, and I was working, and I was looking at all these people making the same as I am, with all these cool toys and uh, you know expensive hobbies, and they're going on trips, and I'm like, how in the world are you affording this? I can barely pay my bills. I How are you buying four wheelers and large tracts of land and all this other stuff? There's I don't see a way you're doing this. And it took me a long time to realize, dude, they are so far in debt. It's crazy. So that's where the 13.4 million families in the bottom 1% have negative net worth, because their debt just to keep themselves sane is out of control. So here is something that you need to remember and realize. Everybody needs to realize this. There is only a limited number for income and wealth. And that number is 100%, right? It doesn't matter how much money they print or how much wealth they create. Um, there's only ever 100% of it. You can't have more than 100% of anything. When you print more money, that money goes into that 100%. And you know, so I've had people argue me up and down, you can have more than 100% of something. And that's not possible. Um, but what you need to realize is, right here in this chart, you see the upper income is rising as a share, middle income is falling as a share, lower income's falling as a share, but I mean, it doesn't have much to begin with, so you're not gonna see it a very significant change down there. But here's the thing about shares of income: in order for someone to gain, they have to take that away from others. So the upper income people are taking away share from the middle income. So the upper income people are taking away shares from the middle income people. You can't have a gain without a loss, right? The lower income people, who they're trying to get you to blame for everything, they ain't changing much. They're losing ground. They're not responsible. Or the numbers right there show that the upper income people are taking away shares of income from the middle income, and therefore just leaving the lower income people totally screwed. Don't forget that. Don't be convinced that it's the people at the lower income levels that are stealing your stuff. They're not. They can't. And the Ford CEO has said that striking auto workers want $300,000 a year to work 4 days a week. So what you're saying there, Jim, is that $300,000 is exorbitant? What's your salary there, Jimmy boy? 22,813,000 in 2021. 22,813,000, and he's saying that $300,000 a year is exorbitant. So, come on, Jim. How about you reduce your salary to only $300,000? Or are you saying that's ridiculous? That you deserve that much money? 356 times what your employees make? Come on, Jim. That's ridiculous. You are not building one single car a year. So you are not driving the profits of the company. The only way you're driving the profits of the company is driving the salaries of the workers down and making everything worse.